The world remembers Orpheus not for his power, nor for his victories, but for his song. A melody so beautiful it could bend the will of nature itself. The rivers paused to listen, the trees leaned closer, and even the wind held its breath. His voice wasn't just sound, it was soul, the echo of something divine trapped in a mortal body. Yet before the songs, before the fame, before even the heartbreak, there was a boy, quiet, curious, and filled with wonder. Orpheus was born to Calliope, the muse of epic poetry, and immortal king of Thrace. From his mother, he inherited the gift of inspiration. From his father, the burden of expectation. While other children played with wooden swords and chased shadows, Orpheus listened to the rhythm of waves crashing on the shore, to the soft hum of bees, to the whisper of stars at night. Every sound was music to him. By the time he turned 12, the lyre was already an extension of his soul. His mother would watch from afar as he played for hours by the river. Fish would rise to the surface as though enchanted, and the birds would perch in silence, their chirps replaced by awe. It was said even Apollo, god of music, once descended from Olympus just to hear him play. And when Orpheus finished, Apollo smiled and handed him a golden lyre, forged by the gods themselves. "Play," he said, "and let the heavens remember your name." And so he did. The years that followed turned the boy into legend. Kings invited him to their courts, warriors sought his blessing before battle, and lovers swore that his songs could mend even the most broken of hearts. But Orpheus was humble. He never sang for fame. He sang for truth, for the unseen beauty that connected all living things. Until one fateful morning, in a valley where sunlight poured through wildflowers like liquid gold, he saw her, Eurydice. She wasn't a goddess. She wasn't a queen. She was mortal, simple, soft-spoken, and breathtaking in her quiet grace. Her laughter danced like wind chimes, and when she smiled, even the heavens seemed to sigh. For the first time, the musician who had tamed storms found himself silenced. His heart, so attuned to melody, found a new song, and it had her name. Their first meeting was pure accident, or perhaps destiny. She had wandered near the grove where he often played, drawn by the echo of his lyre. When he saw her at the edge of the trees, her hair crowned with daisies, her eyes wide with wonder, he stopped playing. The silence that followed felt sacred. "You play like the earth itself is speaking," she said softly, "and you listen as though the earth answers back." That single exchange was the beginning of everything. Days turned into weeks, and every sunrise became a hymn to their love. They met by the same grove, always under the same old oak tree, where light filtered through the leaves like divine fire. Orpheus played, and Eurydice danced barefoot in the grass, her laughter rising and falling like a melody that belonged only to them. Villagers would pause when they passed by the meadow, hearing faint music and laughter drifting on the wind. They said it was as if love itself had found a home there. Their love was unlike any other. It wasn't wild like the love of gods or fleeting like mortal infatuation. It was gentle, pure, and eternal. The kind of love that doesn't demand, but understands. When Orpheus looked at her, he saw not just beauty, but harmony. And when Eurydice looked at him, she saw not just talent, but truth. The day he asked her to marry him, the skies bloomed with color. Even the gods smiled upon their union. Their wedding was simple, no golden palaces or divine feasts, just the forest, music, and their promise to love each other beyond life itself. Nymphs danced, rivers shimmered brighter, and the air was thick with joy. But the gods are jealous of mortal happiness. They always have been, for no mortal love, however pure, can exist without attracting divine envy. That envy came in the form of a shadow. It was the season when the earth turned warm and the fields whispered with life. Eurydice wandered alone one morning, gathering wildflowers near the same grove where they had met. The day was calm, almost too calm. The birds that usually sang along with her were eerily silent. And then she heard it, the faint rustle of grass, the hiss of something coiled and waiting. A serpent, hidden in the tall weeds, struck before she could scream. The world went quiet. When Morpheus found her, she lay still, her bouquet scattered across the ground. Her lips were pale, her hand cold in his. He knelt beside her, the golden lyre trembling in his grasp. The same voice that had moved gods and mountains could not summon her back. His music, once filled with light, now broke into cries of anguish. For 7 days he did not eat or sleep. He played his lyre by her side, begging the heavens for mercy. The rivers swelled with sorrow, the wind howled in lament, and even the stars dimmed as though mourning with him. But no god answered, until he decided he would not wait for their pity. He would go to her. Not metaphorically, truly, to the land of the dead, the underworld, a realm no living soul had ever returned from. But Orpheus was no ordinary man. His love had become something holy, and his grief divine. When he lifted his lyre and began to play, the world itself seemed to open before him. The trees bent low to show him the path, and the mountains echoed his melody as he walked toward the entrance of the underworld, a dark cave where no bird sang, no wind stirred, and even light dared not enter. The journey ahead would defy both gods and death itself. And so begins the descent. The story of a man who dared to challenge eternity, armed with nothing but a song and a love that refused to die. The night Orpheus began his journey, the sky wept silver rain. The world seemed to know that someone was about to challenge the order of life and death. He walked alone through forests that once echoed with laughter. Now they moaned with the weight of his grief. His golden lyre hung at his side, silent. For the first time in days he dared not play. Even the notes feared what lay ahead. He reached the mouth of the cave at dawn. A mist thicker than smoke curled from its depths, cold enough to bite through skin. This was the gate to Hades, the point where every heartbeat ceased to matter. Mortals who dared come this far never returned, yet Orpheus's resolve burned brighter than the torches of Olympus. He whispered her name once, Eurydice, and stepped into the darkness. Inside, the air was heavy, damp, and timeless. The walls glistened like obsidian, echoing his footsteps back to him as if the cave itself were alive. Far ahead he could hear the faint lopping of the river Styx, the black current that carried souls into eternity. When he reached the shore, the ferryman was waiting, Charon, cloaked and hollow-eyed, holding his oar like a staff of judgment. No living man crosses, the spirit rasped. The toll is death itself. Orpheus met his empty gaze. Then he lifted the lyre. The first chord rose softly, trembling like dawn light through fog. The melody carried sorrow, yes, but also promise and memory and love. The notes curled through the gloom, touching even Charon's withered heart. For the first time in eons, the ferryman's hand shook. "Play no more," he murmured. "Your music wounds even the dead." He gestured to the boat. "Cross, poet, but know this, none have ever returned." Orpheus stepped aboard. The Styx was silent, except for the dip of the oar and the faint shimmer of his song echoing across the black waves. Faces of lost souls drifted beneath the surface, mothers, warriors, children, all looking up at him with wonder. Some smiled, some wept. His music soothed them like a forgotten lullaby. Even in death, beauty could still be felt. When they reached the far shore, Charon turned his gaze away. "Beyond this place lies judgment," he said. "The hound guards the gate. I cannot follow." Cerberus waited in the darkness. 3 heads, 3 sets of eyes burning like coals, breath steaming with the scent of oblivion. The beast growled, the sound shaking loose stones from the cavern ceiling. Orpheus didn't flinch. He raised the lyre again and began to play a lullaby so gentle that it softened even monsters. Each head lowered one by one, eyelids drooping, until the guardian of the dead lay sleeping, chained by melody instead of iron. Beyond Cerberus, the underworld opened vast and endless. Rivers of fire met fields of shadow. Souls wandered aimlessly under the pale glow of ghostly stars. Some wept, some simply stared at the horizon, waiting for memory to fade. Orpheus walked among them, and everywhere he went, the music followed, reminding them of sunlight, of laughter, of life. The shades whispered his name like a prayer. When he reached the great palace of Hades and Persephone, the doors opened, not by force, but by harmony. The king of the dead sat upon his obsidian throne, dark crown gleaming. Beside him was Persephone, her beauty gentle and tragic, spring trapped in winter's cage. Hades' voice thundered, "Why does a living soul dare trespass here?" Orpheus bowed low. "I seek only what was taken from me, Eurydice, my heart, my wife." The god's expression remained unreadable. "Many have begged for their dead, none have succeeded." Then Orpheus began to play. The sound was unlike anything ever heard in that realm. The melody rose slow and aching, weaving sorrow with devotion, despair with hope. It painted pictures in sound, of sunlight filtering through trees, of laughter under the oak, of a woman dancing barefoot in the grass. Even the Furies who fed on pain wiped tears from their eyes. Persephone's hand trembled in her lap. Hades' iron composure broke. The god who had seen the birth and death of empires leaned forward, listening. When the final chord faded, silence reigned. Complete, holy silence. At last Hades spoke. "Your music has moved even stone. I will grant your wish on one condition." Orpheus bowed low. "Anything. She will follow you back to the world above, but you must not look back at her until you both stand in the light of the living. If you turn before that moment, she will be lost to you forever." Orpheus's heart surged with relief and terror at once. He bowed again, tears glistening. "I swear it." From the shadows, she appeared. Eurydice, pale, luminous, her eyes wide with longing. The sight of her nearly undid him. He reached out instinctively, but she was still a breath away, as fragile as mist. "Come," he whispered, voice trembling, "follow me home." And so they began the long ascent. The path was narrow, winding through caverns that twisted like veins of the earth. Behind him, he could hear the faint echo of her footsteps, soft, hesitant, fragile. He dared not look. Every instinct screamed to turn, to see her, to hold her, but he kept his gaze fixed forward. The air grew warmer as they climbed. The sound of dripping water replaced the whispers of ghosts. Soon he could sense light somewhere above. Every step was an eternity. Doubt crept in like poison. What if she wasn't truly behind him? What if Hades had deceived him? What if the echo he heard was only memory? His hands shook on the lyre. "Trust," he whispered to himself. "Just a few more steps." At last, a faint glow appeared ahead, the air of life, the sunlight gilding the rocks. He took one final step toward freedom, and then, in that fragile heartbeat between darkness and light, fear overtook him. He turned. Eurydice stood there, still half wrapped in shadow. Their eyes met. She smiled, soft, forgiving, eternal. Then her form began to fade, drawn back by invisible hands into the darkness below. Her last whisper reached him like wind through strings. "My love, remember me." And she was gone. The world held its breath. Orpheus fell to his knees, a cry tearing from his soul so raw that even the mountains above trembled. He had come closer to conquering death than any mortal ever would, and in a single moment of doubt, lost everything again. He tried to follow her back, but the gate of Hades remained sealed. Not even his music could open it now. His song changed that day. It became grief made sound. He wandered the earth singing to rivers, to trees, to the empty wind, and everywhere the world mourned with him. Yet somewhere, in some gentle corner of eternity, it is said Eurydice still hears his melody and smiles. If your heart ached while reading this, tell me in the comments below. Do you think Orpheus should have trusted a little longer? The sun rose slowly over Thrace, its warmth falling upon a man who no longer felt the difference between light and darkness. Orpheus wandered the hills barefoot, his lyre slung across his back like a relic of another world. His eyes carried the look of someone who had seen both heaven and hell and found no comfort in either. Every song he played since that day trembled with absence, a melody of love that had lost its home. Villagers would stop and listen as he passed, spellbound yet sorrowful. Even children would fall silent, sensing something sacred in the sadness. They said his voice could make the gods themselves weep, and perhaps somewhere in the unseen realm they did. But Orpheus no longer played for the world. He played for her. Every dawn he went to the edge of the forest, to the same oak where they once danced, and strummed the lyre. The birds listened. The river slowed its current to carry the sound further. The wind caught the notes and sent them wandering into the distance, as if hoping they might reach her somewhere beyond death. Days became seasons, seasons became years. His hair grew silver, his heart never healed. He refused to take another wife, refused the company of anyone who spoke too lightly of love. "Do not speak of love," he once told a group of travelers, "unless you have sung to the dead and heard only silence." Yet even in grief, the world could not ignore him. The lyre glowed faintly when he played, as if Apollo himself still watched over it. His songs began to change once more. Less sorrow, more peace. Slowly, acceptance bloomed where anguish had lived. There came a morning unlike any other. The air was still. The river's surface reflected the sky like a mirror of glass. Orpheus sat beneath the oak and began to play his final song, not of loss, but of love remembered. The melody rose gently, wrapping the forest in calm. It carried no plea, no pain, only gratitude. Gratitude for having loved, even if love had been fleeting. As he played, he closed his eyes and saw her again, Eurydice, smiling as she used to, barefoot in the grass, sunlight turning her hair to gold. He whispered her name once, and the wind answered softly. But the world is not kind to mortals who touch the divine. Far from the forest, a group of Maenads, wild followers of Dionysus, heard his song drifting through the hills. They mistook his peace for defiance, his stillness for arrogance. In their drunken rage, they stormed toward the sound, crying out that no man should reject their god or their revelry. Orpheus did not stop playing. His eyes remained closed, his soul far away. They tore at him like a storm. His lyre fell, strings snapping one by one, but even as it broke, the final note hung in the air, shimmering. It did not fade, it lingered. Some say the earth itself caught that last chord and carried it into the sky. When the frenzy passed and the forest grew quiet again, the Maenads fled in shame. The air smelled of rain and silence. On the ground lay the lyre, untouched by blood, glowing faintly beneath the morning light. A nightingale perched beside it and began to sing the same melody Orpheus had played moments before. It was as if the world refused to let his music die. The gods, too, could not ignore such devotion. Apollo descended once more, his face heavy with both pride and sorrow. He lifted the lyre gently, touched its golden frame, and whispered, "Your music shall not perish, son of Calliope." He carried it to the heavens, placing it among the stars. From that night onward, mortals would look up and see a cluster of lights, shaped like a lyre, the constellation Lyra. Its faint shimmer would remind them that music, like love, is immortal. As for Orpheus, the myths say his spirit wandered through twilight meadows, searching endlessly for the one name that gave his soul meaning. For a long time, he found only echoes. Then, one day, in the soft hush between worlds, he heard a familiar voice whisper back, "Orpheus." He turned, and there she was, Eurydice, no longer pale, no longer fading. Her smile was whole, her eyes radiant. The underworld no longer separated them. Even Hades, moved by the purity of their love, allowed them this peace. They walked together through the fields of Elysium, hand in hand, where no shadow could touch them again. In that realm beyond pain, they danced once more beneath an eternal sunrise. No serpents, no sorrow, only music. It is said that when the wind blows gently across the earth, you can still hear faint notes of Orpheus's lyre, played for the woman who became his eternity. Because love like theirs never truly dies. It simply changes worlds.